Hello again, it's Niver and Niver Niver Land. Happy to have you here today. And guess who I have with me? Alison Arth of Salt and Row. She's kind of a hero to this whole city in a way, helping us through navigating some of the craziness of the pandemic. You need to know her. All of you need to know her. She can give you some perspectives that you could take and use. Anyway, Tim Niver, Niver Niver Land. See you soon. Here on Niver Niver Land with Alison Arth from Salt and Row, we can talk about anything we want to.
Okay.
Anything. There is no topic off limit. Beautiful. I may ask some questions you don't like about other people because I know that you get into people's minds a little bit and help them with things, right? And so I know that you have to tell me secrets, but I kind of want to know the minds you've been in a little bit.
Ooh, all right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll let you, somewhat marinate on that while we get rolling.
Okay.
Alison Arth, Salt and Row, Niver Niver Land. This is one of the episodes in the season we're in.
Beautiful.
I don't know what that is. It's 2 or 3. It's 4. It's great. Alison is with us.
So happy to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm going through a lot right now, and it's all really good. I find that I'm up in the morning now. I have changed my schedule a bit. Make the bed. My 22-year-old moved out of her bedroom. There is a yoga mat in there. There's a desk in there. I'm kind of resituating, right? And so the timing of you coming here is unbelievable. And I'm not asking you to, if you think you can help me in an hour, like we can condense this session into an hour.
Yes.
That'd be great. Because
Yes.
I need some help fast.
Well, the beauty of dialogue is that it's always helpful, I think, in some way.
Absolutely.
For both of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've been in front of the microphone numerous times. Synergy series is one of the things that I think people might know you most for.
Yeah.
Now, don't take that the wrong way.
Not at all.
But when you sit up there on a stage with these chefs and you articulate and you navigate and you're like kind of even pulling things out of these people of all kinds. I love the array of chefs and the type of people.
Yeah.
I mean, you're so good at this. What do you do? Like before you got here, I looked into you, right? We met, and I'm like, oh my god, she's so cute, and she knows stuff. And honestly, when I actually met you, you're a hero. Holy shit!
Oh my gosh!
I can't believe I didn't start with that. Okay, I think you're a hero. So the pandemic hit, right? And everybody's like, what the fuck
Yes.
are we doing?
Myself included. Yes.
Okay. And then someone, I don't know. Like it just started appearing like the chefs and the owners, and we were just like, our hearts started beating, and Zoom like was introduced to us, and then all of a sudden I'm like thankfully amongst my contemporaries online wondering what to do with COVID. And who's running the show? You, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, so that's how I see it. And that's how I see you. Like there's a ton of badassery here. I'm not trying to blow you up, but you were at least the one that kept us on track, okay? You were at least the one that kind of guided the conversation or maybe stopped some conversation and moved things. Wow, and in a room of some of the biggest, either egos or personalities or business folks. Yeah. You just handled them all.
Yeah.
Wow.
I tried.
Thanks so much.
Gosh.
Dude.
This is overwhelming
to
hear.
So
In a beautiful way.
Back up.
No. Overwhelming in a just a really flattering and deeply meaningful way. Thank you for sharing all of those thoughts with me about how you see me. I mean, I think that's such a gift of being in conversation with other leaders and other people in general. I think we as humans are not very good at seeing ourselves clearly. And so I just want to start by thanking you for giving me that gift of seeing my own self, especially in that period of time where I have to admit, and I don't think I'm unique in this way, I don't remember a lot of it very clearly, I think because of the trauma of that moment. I think a lot of our memories became fallible for those
I feel
years.
I feel what you're saying, and absolutely can be there with you, you know, in a common way. Right? But amidst all of that, I can't squall of, you know, just things keep coming, right? You remain there, and I really loved how, you know, maybe there's a little glue that we got from you, just one person, and it, you know, all of us individually add up to a more mighty force, don't we?
Yes, absolutely.
So
and I think
it was really cool to meet you that way. And I have to say, you know, when somebody can do that, I think maybe I didn't know how approachable you were, because I was maybe putting in front of me because you're so awesome. Like, you know, like you can maybe, like, people don't approach you because they might think, you know, well, you know, she works with Gavin, or she does only this, or I don't know, you know? So it was like the best part of this was kind of getting to know how approachable through your leadership style you were.
I think that's, I'm like holding on to a number of different things that you're putting in front of me. And I'm gonna like maybe tie together something that you offered in the beginning about synergy dialogue and what that experience is like for me and how I think about it. And then also this piece about, I don't know, mediating, facilitating, supporting that particular group of restaurant owners during the pandemic. And I think for me, and I really do count this as a gift to myself as much as it is anyone else, like, I just see everyone as a human, you know, like the celebrity piece. I used to get made fun of for this all the time, especially when I was working in New York and we had celebrities in the restaurant all the time. And I just didn't recognize them. Like, I don't participate in like pop culture all that much. And so I'd like walk up to Mick Jagger and be like, hey man, how can I help you today? Like, I have no idea who you are. And I think that's just sort of
helpful.
So helpful.
Yes.
And I think that lens is the one that I really carry into all of my work, you know, like that group of restaurant owners or any number of people who have been on stage at Dialogue. Like, yes, you have achieved all of these things, and I don't know, you have this many followers on Instagram, and you've won this and you've written that and you've gotten this award, but really, we're just the same, you know, we're all the same. We're just humans.
Yeah. It does boil down to that.
Yeah.
It's cool you have extra shit though. That you're awesome at it. You know, I think, you know, being the best or trying to be the best at something, or trying to, like, you know, make yourself into more, or just a realization of who you actually are. I mean, there's so many pieces to this. And as I started like considering, how do my brain starts working where I'm like, and this. And there's so many things situationally we've never seen before.
Yes.
So the newness of the hardness was like, wow. When you talk about trauma, and I believe very deeply, because of a little travel I've done lately, that we are holding on to this trauma in this town so hard. And I just, you know, I feel like we're already an island, fam. And, you know, Minnesota is kind of in the middle. And we cannot retreat into ourselves now. It's a hard time for the city. I see more joy elsewhere, and maybe it's because I'm looking for it elsewhere. How do we just start? Is it just recognizing maybe that trauma exists? Is that it? Like, how do we start as a restaurant community, but as a community maybe? Just I know that's a big question. But
it is a big question.
Come on in with a little bit. I know you got something.
I would love to share my thoughts on that. And also I'm never going to claim to be a trauma expert of any sort, but I'm also going to offer the disclaimer at this point in the conversation that I love analogies. They don't work for everyone's brain, but my brain loves them.
Me too.
And you're pointing to a big one for me. Like I kind of think of each of us having like an emotional house that we are individually and collectively responsible for cleaning up. You know, I don't think that we're taught a lot of practices and methods for doing that as leaders. And I want to qualify that word by saying that when I speak of leadership, I think it's anyone who's willing to take ownership over their own influence. So you might lead a team, but even if you don't lead a team or a household or a marriage, each one of us is leading our own lives. So I really think of every single one of us as a leader. I'm referring to every single one of us as a leader. And keeping a clean emotional house is effortful. And just like our homes, our physical homes, there are things that we need to do every day to just tidy up, pick up the clothes off the floor, wipe down the counter. And then there's stuff that we need to do every week. Maybe we need to sweep the floors and put the furniture back together. And then maybe once a month, we've got to do some heavier duty maintenance. Maybe once a year, we need to invite a professional to take care of certain things in our home or help us do some deep cleaning. And I really think the same is true of our emotional houses. And I think that 2020 for every single one of us in some way, like we were just shoving shit under the rug all day, every day, because you couldn't keep up with the cleaning, unless your full-time job was going to be processing the experiences that you were having and making sense of them and working through them. Every single one of us just let's put that boot under there and that other thing, we'll just hide it behind the couch for now because there's a whole other pile of trash coming through the door. And so I'm not suggesting that any of us should have or could have done it differently. I think that just was what we were handed as a community and as a profession. But now, 2 years, however many years later, and obviously we're not completely past this thing. We're still in different versions of it. I think that work still has to be done. Yeah. We have to unpack the house.
Absolutely.
And I feel like some of what, I can tie this to so many different symptoms that I think we're experiencing as a restaurant community and as hospitality leaders. Just like any relationship, a marriage, a friendship, your professional relationship, if the house is too full of garbage, you either have to say, I'm willing to do the work to unpack it, or you have to leave, Yeah. Because nobody wants to live in a house full of trash.
No, man.
And so I think I'm seeing that in some really tenured leaders who have been in this work for their whole lives, who are just to the point of like, I don't think I want to clean up. I think I want to move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm seeing it. And people reach out to me because I'm open and I just see it all around. It's really tough. And also I've noted that I think this is a really good thing.
Yeah.
I think you get to decide all over again.
Yeah.
I think life continues to hand you choices. I don't think we thought it did. I think one of the things was kind of like, life was kind of rolling for a while there. And then we got a nice little smack across the face, wake up.
Yep.
Not only did we learn some things through the pandemic, we also kind of bared out some of the problems that existed in our industry and have had to face those too.
Yeah.
Employees have come through, I think, with being who we would expect them to be.
Yeah.
Strong, personable fighters. This is who we work with. And I love how the employee side of things is changing too. There are a lot of management things that were just kind of lazily accepted in our industry.
Yeah.
And so we have to consider those things too as we move on.
Yeah.
There's a personal and a professional, there's a couple different levels that we're all dealing with here, right? And that kind of brings me to Salt and Row.
Yeah.
Because, you talk, Salt and Row is your consulting business.
Yes.
Do you call it consulting?
I call it consulting and coaching these days. Sure. Yeah.
And I love that. Salt and Row is based on a couple of major things that you do. You have a leadership development.
Yes.
Right? The kind of the personal thing, like talking about the person.
Yes.
Right? And then you go in to the business side.
Yes.
And you can do like new stuff. You can think it up. You can dream it up. You can be there in that exciting kind of creative time, putting things on the table. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. And then you can be in a situation like many of us are now.
Yes.
Where we find ourselves, as you mentioned, as this conversation flows, right? People who are needing to consider where they are.
Yes.
How much value is that for a person? I mean, right? I think so. If it ends up thinking where you can like accept this change and kind of like hasten it.
Yes.
I think there's power there.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
I said I'm personally, kind of going through this stuff now. I have a network that I've never really used before, and I'm seeking people out. Who do you seek out? Because if somebody comes to you, and I want to get back to Salt and Row a little bit because I want to make sure we're touching on this because it's important people know, that where you can help and how. And there's a couple different ways.
Yes.
Oh shoot! I forget my question. That happens to me a lot.
You asked me who I seek out. Yes, do you want to? Yeah. It's a great question. I feel so grateful to have a couple of different partners in my life, and I would say that those two people I'm specifically referring to: Marco, my life partner, romantic partner, engaged partner, and then Kimberly, who's my business partner. Thank you. And those two people are my, they're my found family. They are people who love me so deeply. They are willing and able and ready to do the hardest work, which is to tell me the truth. I think that's what I'm usually seeking when I'm seeking support is another person who can, I think we need other people to see our own minds. And those are the two people who I rely on, I would say, every day, multiple times a day to help me see my own mind more clearly. I think it is absolutely true that we seek out, whether it's conscious or unconscious, our greatest teachers. And my two partners are wildly different than me, and I'm wildly different than them. And that is such a gift to be able to lean on a perspective in any given situation that is inherently not going to look like mine. Right. So there's so much to learn from that. And then I think, the other category of people, one particular person at this time that I'll mention is my own coach, my own leadership, executive life, I don't know what to call him, but my own coach who is, a person who I pay to do that work with me. And that is, it's probably the most valuable investment that I make every year. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you find, I'll skip around. That's how I am.
Of course.
Do you find that ego gets in the way of people potentially reaching out to you? Like, do you see people that need you that don't want to admit it? I guess I'm asking about males, like in this profession, it's just kind of like, this is a hard question to ask. Yeah. Yeah. I think you're good enough that anybody could come to you, any person, but you have to really be willing to accept, right?
Yes.
So no matter what your ego is, you have to kind of come into a process with you and start accepting something. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're really pointing directly towards an essential part of any process of seeking help or support in life. We can't change what we can't accept. and we can't accept something if we're not willing to acknowledge it. And so I think even upstream of accepting, hey, I think I need some support, or I might benefit from some thought partnership, before that, we have to acknowledge that thought or feeling is even there.
Yep.
And I think it's an interesting question that you're asking about, how does ego play into that, and what are the differences in terms of, broad generalizations, how that shows up in gender. I think ego, for me, and there's so many different definitions of that word, and we all use it differently, I think, in our day-to-day lingo. When I think about ego, I think about honestly wisdom, like wisdom of our younger selves. I think our egos form as children. We develop protections in our first family to make sure that we're cared for, right? In my own story, that looked a lot like being perfect, needing to be good, needing to keep the peace. That was my role in my first family. And that was a very wise response in me as a child, to make sure that I got the attention and the protection and the physical and emotional care that I needed to survive. Because humans are so unique, and that it takes us many, many, many years, many more years than any other mammal before we can take care of ourselves. And so we develop our egos. They're our protective armor. They keep us safe. Thank goodness we develop them when we're children. We need them. And then where we get into trouble is when we transition into adulthood, and we don't, we can care for ourselves. So we don't really need that armor anymore. But I think many of us, without learning about our own egos and understanding, hey, there are some things I can do in my day-to-day life to really discern and look at each situation and make a conscious choice of, like, do I need to protect myself right now? Do I need to be perfect to connect with Tim right now? Or can I just be myself?
You can be yourself. I'm trying to be perfect. I don't know.
Is this making sense, what I'm offering? Absolutely. And so the stickiness isn't that each of us has an ego. The stickiness is that we're usually employing them in situations where we don't need them. And so they actually get in the way of all these things that we most deeply want: love, connection, trust. We can't grow those things if we've got our armor on. And I think that, again, this is a broad gendered statement. This is not true of every man or every woman, but I think that ego development in men, what men needed to do in their found families, was to be tough and to not have feelings, and big boys don't cry, and like all those things that I think gratefully are starting to shift as the generations move forward. But, if that's your sort of core wound, that's a long answer to your question. Yes, I do think that there can be more of a challenge in reaching out for help, because you have a built-in fear response that says that that's not okay. It's not okay to ask for help. It means something about your strength or your ability as a leader, when I think quite the opposite is true. And I think, I hear it out of men, women, anyone. As a leader of a team, I hear that come out of everyone's mouth all the time. Like, you need to ask for help. It's the wise thing to do.
It's the biggest, one of the biggest things in the industry. Don't let yourself go down. Then it's on you. I always say, if you don't ask for help, then it's your responsibility. If you do ask for help, then it's our responsibility.
Right. So there's that knowledge there. There's the intellectual knowledge that each and every one of us needs help all the time.
Good. So I guess I'm going to talk to dudes specifically.
Sure.
Dudes, just, open yourself up to understanding something else from a different angle. Okay? If you're just broaden your perspective a little bit. Maybe not just dudes, but I think maybe dudes have a little bit harder time letting go of this stuff, right? The programming and all that. Thank God I'm Italian. I was programmed to be emotional. And that's how I make my connection here in the front. And how how one of the biggest things for me throughout my career is how I work with the work with the back, and how we kind of collectively do this together.
Yeah.
And, oh man, that's just like some of the gold here.
Oh, it's the best.
Right?
Yeah.
Hospitality is never perfect because the people that join us are different, right?
Yeah.
So assessing somebody else outside the business, and how do we look at people? We talked about this when you walked in just a little bit. How do we look at others as they enter our business and try to, you have the way that you said it with Mick Jagger was you kind of just walk up like, I don't want to say oblivious, but like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah.
And you just walk up and it's simply like a hello. But when we welcome people into our businesses now, things have changed. Like I got an email because I have a 44-seat restaurant, and our first turn of the night, we have to limit the time that people can sit at tables, because if we do not get a turn at an appropriate hour that people will eat in this town.
Yeah.
Right? But also I have to make my business successful and feel hospitable to them and tell them they have a certain amount of time to protect my business. We are working kind of not only with these personalities on the inside, but every single guest as they enter, uniquely fitting them with an experience.
Yes.
Whoa. The frick, man.
Oh my gosh. It's wild.
It's wild.
Our work.
It's wild. It's a theater of, and the cast is the guest. And we are the actors in a different way. Like, I mean, I don't know what it is. It's not even like the guest is the audience, I guess. But okay, so I could just do this forever. Back to Salt and Row.
Sure.
Tell me a little bit. We've kind of like maybe laid out a little bit of the personal development. There's some business development, and I think maybe can we touch on just a little bit of like ongoing entities, kind of either feeling adrift, or what after this? Like, what do we do? Where just in a minute or as many minutes as you need. Tell me what you think about that side. Where you start there, so that maybe you give somebody just a little spark today.
Okay. Yeah. I want to think about, to even tie two different buckets of our work together, both the leadership development work and business development work. I think that anyone who's listening who wants to, zoom out a little bit and try to look at their own business or their own life sort of from like the perspective of the observer, which is so much of what Salt and Row's role is in doing coaching work, whether it's with a team or, a business team or an individual. I think a nugget I would offer is to just take some time to really think through what is present right now. What's really contributing to the results that I want, whether it be, again, life or business, kind of same question. If you're an individual, it might sound like what's really present in my life that's contributing to my well-being, my happiness, a sense of fulfillment, a sense of purpose. What's on that list? And then list number 2, thinking about what's missing. And I'm using that term really to try to stay away from anything that feels like blame, like self-blame or blame of a team or blame of other people in your life, but really taking another inventory that sounds like in my life / in my business, what is missing that if it were present, it would contribute to even more success, profitability, trust within my team, all of those results that I think most of us universally want for our businesses. Same thing in your life. If it were present, what would contribute to even more well-being, meaningfulness, energy? What's on that list? And then from there, we can start to have a conversation about possibilities. What is possible in terms of making the things on my missing list present? What's most important? What's worthy of being prioritized? What are some different possibilities for tackling this work? And I would say that that's like one form of an executive summary of what we coach and guide people through in either evaluating an existing business where, you know, most often people are coming to us and saying like XYZ results, or maybe it's a list of them. Like, I'm just not happy with where we're at, or I think that there could be more, or I know that I need to make this shift, but I don't know how. I think more often it's, I don't know, folks who just have a sense that things are not working, and it is so hard to see the picture when we're inside the frame. And so having someone that's standing outside the frame is invaluable. And the same thing is true of our lives as leaders. You know, there's, we all have blind spots, and
oh, good way to put it. Like,
absolutely.
Totally, it's like, you know, and we have been looking over our shoulders too.
Yeah. Like, you know, if you think about the role that you're in, and I'm sure probably most people who are listening to this podcast, again, as a leader of any kind, whether you have a team or you own a business or you're just leading your own life forward, that's like most of what we're doing all the time is like being in a leadership role. And I constantly, I love sports analogies. I think they're so helpful in applying what we know is true of developing as an athlete to developing as a leader. Like, if LeBron James still needs 12 coaches to practice basketball, like, we all probably still could use some help in developing our leadership skills.
For sure.
And just like athletic exertion, like, it's hard. Yeah. It's hard. Like, you're gonna fuck it up. You're gonna make mistakes. It is painful. Marco always makes jokes about having a vulnerability hangover after he does kind of coaching work and an own assessment of where he's at. But like, if you wake up the next day after having a hard conversation with an employee or with a friend, you should be a little sore because you're practicing, you know? And that's part of what I think of as like personal mastery, in the same way that we go to the gym to get stronger or do yoga to improve our alignment and whatever. We have to do the same thing in our emotional lives and our relational lives. And since being a leader means a whole lot of relationship with other people, it's just such essential work. Yeah. And I think I think some pieces of it are impossible to do alone.
Nobody does anything alone. I say it all the time. Nobody does anything alone. And like, how lonely would that feel? And I think our situation maybe has pulled us into, you know, some darker corners, and certainly myself. I'm through, right? But I've arrived at another point.
Yes.
Right. And at this point, I'm having to recommit. All right. A little more to myself. Right. Because I feel like, you know, the way things went in our industry for the last 15 years is kind of promote the chef, get the award, promote the chef, go on TV, you know, get attention. And then now, say, like, speaking of vulnerabilities, I'm 53 and I arrive here, right? Yeah. I've set an infrastructure up in my businesses so I can walk out, right? Because I got somebody that needs a new job in my organization and they need to move up, and I want them with me. Yeah. And I want that next person to be where they want as a solid number 2. Yeah. And guess what? This has been great for me, but I have to find a way to be another version of me so that everybody else can be another version of them within the organization, and it still continues to breathe. Yes. Unless I want to be in my business every fucking day doing it. Yeah. And I do. But I have to. Yeah. I'm driven to. Yeah. I'm sensing that. I need to move the fuck on. Yeah. Yep. All right. A couple of things. That's also a financial decision. So I can feel any way I want to. Lovely feelings, emotional feelings, sad feelings. I can feel any way I want to. But the real shit is I can't afford things like I used to. Yeah. And this business cannot afford me like it used to. Yeah. Like, shit has changed, man. Yeah. So I jokingly have I'm kicking myself out of the nest. I fired myself. I'm finding ways to joke about. Yeah. That's how I make myself feel better. to joke about the challenges and the fear and the idea that I may flop again or in a way that I don't want to. I mean, not flop. I don't think I have any flops ever, but I think it's more like how this, like the sound, like plump, like, ugh. Oh, maybe it was a flop. Yeah. It was really good, but it flopped.
Yep.
Okay. So I did have a flop.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Anyway, so here I am. I got because there's a spark where I'm hoping people find in themselves to find, like, light the lighter for the gas range and get it going, right? Mm-hmm. And then find a way to move into that change, right? Move into that change and hasten it. And you need to find a spark. If you're kind of dragging, you need to find a spark in a way maybe out. And it's okay to do something different. I'm going to go to try to do frozen foods. God, I opened the Bellagio and now I got lasagna.
Yeah.
And I think for potential, for everybody with me, I need to make this next step successful so that we can all keep going, man.
Yes.
And if it was solely about me, I don't know, maybe, and let the lease expire. I don't know, but like, that's not where I'm at.
Yeah.
My feet don't hurt because I took a little time not to work on the floor.
Yeah. Wow, that's a revelation.
I don't even.
Did they shrink a couple sizes?
I still feel the bottoms of them kind of throb, but they don't hurt.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what we've done to ourselves?
I do.
And it's like, we don't need to do it this way.
Yeah.
We need to find a balance between, where the industry sits and the city's emotional position and our own emotional position. But there's some business things that you have to take care of too, you know? And gosh, I'm glad that I'm kind of considering things way beyond even the industry.
Mm-hmm. I just want to take a moment to, reflect back to you or share what I heard and what you so beautifully offered about yourself and where you are in this moment in your journey, which to me, the word that kept coming into my mind was transformation. And it is essential, whether we like it or not, whether we choose transformation or not. I think that is just, it's the nature of being alive. It's the nature of partnership. And I think when we're able to do what you're so beautifully modeling, which is moving towards it with all the fear and all the trepidation and all the uncertainty that comes with literally shedding your skin and growing a new one. Yeah. I think it's so powerful.
It's fun.
And it's so much more empowering than the moments in our lives. I know I have more than a few where like we just sort of, it happens to us because we got kind of stopped in our tracks by the fear of choosing change. And I really think about the snake as the most like ancient symbol of transformation and the shedding of the skin. Snakes are transforming all the time. There is this like icky middle part, like how it feels to me when I'm going through transformation where one skin is coming off. And that's uncomfortable. You're like, I know this one. Like I got cozy in this.
I look good.
And we don't really know what our new outfit is going to look like. Mm-hmm. And there's this middle part where we're just kind of naked. Yeah. Like I don't know what I'm headed towards next. I haven't chosen it yet. I don't know what that spark is. Maybe I haven't felt the spark yet. So I'm just in this like messy middle of knowing that my old outfit doesn't fit anymore. But I don't know what the new one is yet. And that is hard. Yeah. That is hard. Yeah. So if you're experiencing that, I just want to validate that it's hard and applaud you for doing it anyway.
Oh, thanks.
And for anyone who's listening who can identify themselves in that continuum of like, okay, I know that this isn't mine anymore, but what's next? That's a tough place to be. It's also uncomfortable and takes a minute to get used to a new skin. Sure. So yeah.
I want to make note to restaurant careers in general.
Yes.
Right. They're not always long lasting.
Right.
So while you're doing your restaurant job and you're loving it and it feels good, please keep your eyes open to everything else out there in the periphery. Because I think, you know, I started getting on Indeed. I'll take a corporate job. I'm looking at stuff. Not that I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do frozen food.
Yep.
But I am looking at everything because I'm at a point where I'm open enough to see it all. Yeah. I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
Part of the opening for me is having a podcast, you know, sharing this information that is important to me, also that I have experience with, also that I can share connections with. Gosh, this has meant so much to me to be able to get it out.
Yes.
To talk about it.
Yes.
It's real life.
Yes.
It's real fucking life.
Yes.
It's not like some game, right? Yeah. You know, where like always so nice, you know, inside. Like there's some shit that, you know, obviously is going on. Yeah, we party and we're fun, man. But wow, you know, like I see, you know, the decisions having to be made when people are having to walk away, and I applaud that. I see what when I was looking at some corporate things, I see that it's not a match again. But I had to get through the idea. At the moment, it's not a match. But I had to get through the idea. I had to dip my toe in the water a little bit and talk to that person to know if I could go into that world again. I could do it. I could do that. But I'm not sure that's me. But I'm gonna go ahead and like dip my toe in there and see what's up. Like we have to play with this a little.
Totally.
Bit.
Yeah.
Because of this, I asked a friend of mine, "Do you have a voice coach / somebody that could do voice work? Because I love this shit." And I'm like, God, could I do commercials? Like, I want to do anything. Yeah. Right?
Yes.
I could, if anybody's hiring a part-time job that they think I would fit in, I'll do it right now. I got time to do it. If it's cool, like, let me know, dudes. Yeah. Like, I am honestly just all over this part of my life. Yeah. And, wow, it's really hard because a person like me has all of these contrasting thoughts all the time. And when you got here, I was like, woo, and I still am. You can sense it on me, right? Like I'm ready to go. I'm fired up. But I needed to center, and you kind of, even with just a little hugging exercise, a breathing exercise, brought me to center for a minute. And I was just like, thanks a lot. It was warm and inviting, and in just the right way. It was just kind of letting things down for a second. Thanks.
You're so welcome.
You I think you help unlock other people's powers, right?
I would like to think so. I think that's a central golden thread that kind of ties a lot of my many transformations professionally together. Is helping people to see and know and really use their power in a way that feels meaningful to them. Yes. Yeah.
Well, thank God for you. Like I said, this recommitment and kind of staying on track. Like you can decide to change, and that's the track.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean you're off it. It doesn't mean you're off the track when you feel like there's a rumble. It's a switch, right? Yes. And those are some of the things you say. You have to be kind of like okay with the rumbles.
Yes.
The rumble strips,
yes.
Right?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I kind of want to nerd out a little bit too, if you don't mind.
Please.
Some of the people that you have hung out with. Like, I mean, I know you met Mick Jagger.
Yeah.
Right?
He's a very kind man.
He's kind of tiny, right?
He's so tall.
Oh, what?
He's very tall.
Oh, I thought he was just like this little guy.
No, he's really tall. He used to come to Cafe Baloo all the time. And, you know, wanted to be subtle, I think. And, you know, didn't want to be seen, and had a very, I think, counterproductive way of doing that, where he knew where all the lighting was in the restaurant. All the controls were in the coat check, and he would reach his like big gangly arm inside the coat check and turn down all the lights in the restaurant so that he could walk back to his table in the veil of darkness. And of course, what happens when the lighting suddenly changes in a restaurant? Everybody looks up and is like, who is that? So who knows what his true intent was, but I always thought that was sort of sweet, that he would turn the lights down for himself.
let's compare sightings, because I think that's probably way better than this one. But somebody you think that might be big is not big. Jean-Claude Van Damme. He left his overcoat in the restaurant in Vegas, and I had to walk it up to his room.
That's so funny.
And he's not really nice or anything.
Yeah.
But it was funny. He's like, oh, thanks, my coat. He had a weird accent. I was like, this is awesome. Awesome. All right, let's do. Can we do this again? Who else do you think is like somebody that made a huge impression on you? That's maybe not like whoever.
Yeah.
Who else?
Who's made an impression on me?
Like
is
star, celebrity, or I don't know. Gave something that you always have with you.
That's a great question. And I feel like because of what I offered earlier, a lot of them probably don't stand out to me in terms of like celebrity. Like
okay,
I just
so for you then, if it's not a celebrity.
Geez, who's made a big impression on me?
I met like George Lucas once. It's just like unbelievable to kind of find this, these people in the way he looks like one of his characters when you see him in real life. He's kind of furry and kind of.
Yeah. Okay, I have one. Really, it's like childhood related. Was Robin Williams, who I grew up pretty close to, and my brother and I were like similar ages to his kids, so we played soccer with his kids. And he would like come to the games and was a really private person, but I love his work in the world. And it was really very meaningful to know that like, he just was such a kind dad, he just was a dad.
Seems like
we'd like run into him at the subway after the soccer game, and he just, I don't know, I miss him.
Yeah.
He made an impression on me. Just
that's cool
to be in his presence and to have it feel so genuine, even when he didn't say a word and was trying to keep to himself.
I think I missed the idea that you can be surprised in a city like New York by whoever walks in the door. Right?
Yeah.
You just don't know who anybody is. And it's not necessarily that I love the idea of celebrities, and Katie Holmes when she ate here and all this stuff. And it's mostly who's around you, right? That kind of like gets you excited or whatever. And we had Father John Misty in here. And, I didn't know who it was and walked in, and it's just kind of like, I love this. He's really kind of handsome and moody. I'm like, that dude is somebody. Right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's Father John Misty, like bam. Yeah. And I think it's fun because that's some of the excitement of that relation with people who are important to us.
Yes.
And maybe that we're trying to look at others and gain from what they can give to us. And sometimes, I don't want you to be intimidated by that. I want you to approach that feeling. And one of the corporate things that I was looking at, I just emailed the CEO and said, hey, I could be your guy. And I have all these businesses, and I don't know what he thinks when he gets an email from me, but let's talk about it. I don't know, but this one opportunity seems good. And if you're afraid to approach, if you're afraid to consider, either how somebody is or a situation emotionally, if you're afraid to approach it, you're not going to find the end.
Yeah, I agree with that. And those, I did a lot of letter writing. I still do actually, but definitely early in my career and in college and all the rest in high school, like reaching out to chefs and food people who I admired. And, this was a while ago at this point. So it was like literally, letter writing and putting it in the mail.
Oh, wow.
And I just always felt like even if nothing came from it, like how powerful and meaningful it is to both parties to just take a moment to recognize what someone else is doing, to express gratitude for it, to say out loud, like, whether you give me this internship or not, like, I appreciate you. Like what you're doing is inspiring me. Yeah. There's just I think it's one of gratitude and recognition. It's one of few things in life where there truly isn't a way to lose. Like there's just nothing bad that can come of it for either person.
Right.
Yeah.
So you find yourself now in Minneapolis, and these are very different markets from where you were before.
Yes.
And you worked internationally as well.
A little bit,
right?
yeah.
So you've been around the block.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to put you on the spot about Minneapolis, St. Paul, but I know there's a lot of work here for you. Like,
yes.
Like it feels like the timing for what you do and the way that I sense people are feeling is perfect.
Yeah.
And that I think we really need to kind of make sure you're hearing some of the things that we're saying. It's like, please, consider yourself, where you're at. And you probably need somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
And Alison is here for you. And yes, you've seen the best, so you can do it with the best. And you can do it with everybody on every level too, like whatever your desired outcome is, right?
Yeah.
And I say the best because, some people are just going for a level and spending the money and doing fine dining.
Sure.
And, there are levels, but it's all approachable. And then in this town, I think there are so many family businesses that have been legacies that maybe need to kind of consider themselves.
Yeah.
It's not like you have to change the old restaurant, but
yeah.
Have you seen the carpet? Are you remembering, where the shine was, the luster?
Yeah.
I think there's just a lot of things that you do that line up here, right? And you're just so approachable on this stuff. It makes me feel good to have a minute with you.
Thank
Let me
you.
check my notes for a second.
Yeah, I'll say a couple things while you check your notes, but I feel like it almost brings, what you just offered brings me all the way back to the beginning of our conversation where I was talking about the emotional house and, Minneapolis, the Twin Cities being a market where from your perspective, it feels like there's a little bit of stuckness and unpacking. And I think that I don't know how entirely unique that is to hear. I think maybe because there's a little more reserve or hesitance around sharing vulnerable dialogue. I definitely think I notice that presence here more so than places like San Francisco and New York. But I don't think it's entirely unique. I think everybody gets a little stuck around those things. And so I do think that there's this really cozy fit here right now where that is, man, I'm an unpacker. I just love supporting people and doing that work. And I think because of my own experiences and having a lot of fear around doing that, I also have a ton, endless, infinite appreciation and empathy for that work being very difficult. Yeah. I'm not coming to it saying like, hey, this is easy. Why can't you just get over yourself and figure it out? It's quite the opposite. And so that feels beautiful to be here in this place, in this moment. And I have so much appreciation for this community. And, you referred to doing work with the best, and I will add my own 2 cents on that, where I really think that the best work that any of us can be doing is the work that's most true to us, that's most meaningful. And so I, think about Danielle Ballou, who was my first boss in the first restaurant group I really worked for. And I think people look to someone like him and say like, he's the best. And in my mind, I don't put Danielle above or below. I think about Tammy at Rainbow Chinese, who's just someone I absolutely adore.
Also
and I think she's the fucking best,
Oh
so
God,
like, I just want to make clear that I do not measure better or worse or good or bad. And I know you don't either, based on like what someone has achieved or hasn't achieved. I think it's just based on alignment. And I have been so fortunate to work with some people who I think early in their life knew what that looked like for them.
Yeah.
And I think it's just as meaningful to be present with folks who haven't necessarily figured that out yet and are looking for that
it's
click.
All levels, right?
Yeah.
Like, I guess, there's maybe a little bit I need to break down there for myself, what the best is and what I perceive as the best. Like, I think personally, I work on that all the time. Like, I'm competitive, and it comes out in the way that I phrase.
Yeah.
I'm always trying to strive.
Yeah.
And I like clarity with knowing who my real competition is too. I'm working on that. Somebody that I used to work with, a chef, told me about their time at the French Laundry, and I don't know Thomas, but somebody who you could perceive like classic figure in our industry, right? And one of the chef's experiences was about how Thomas seemed to be going through a hard time, and I I think was kind of, trying to regulate himself in a different way than he had tried before. And it made him feel like he lost his edge. And kind of just, was a little doughy for a minute.
Yeah.
I think you always have to kind of consider the space you're in. And, I'm wondering what that chef takes away from that experience back in that day. Because apparently, Chef Keller is kind of like, I can't do that. I need to manage this another way.
Sure.
So somebody, with that brain function in that level, right?
Yeah.
And then how do you get, it just boggles me, because I do look at these kind of like chef elites a little differently now. Yep. Right?
Sure.
And, what it all means. Like what's important to this industry.
Yeah.
And I think it's all so vital that people take it to that extreme and try to go and push it that way. And that somebody who's been maybe trying so hard pulls back and maybe does something small and lovely. Guy named Acciato over at the Astoria Cafe has seen ups and downs and started these businesses and closed some and lost some partnerships. And now he's got this beautiful little breakfast thing that just fits him so perfectly. You help me talk about the stories that are personal to people, because everybody's got a different little link to this. Everybody's got a little different link to themselves and a different way to approach it. And I'm glad that you clarified that. I just know that you have the highest standards. You do, because you've seen things.
Sure.
And that's so cool that you can share them. And we all have them in our own way. And I know you don't, your standard is yours, what you've seen. And you don't like put that on somebody.
Yeah.
But you can take care of business. You're a badass.
Thank you. Can we talk about the edge?
Yeah.
I think what you just said there is really interesting. And I don't know the details of the story about your friend's experience working with Thomas, or what Thomas was reporting about.
Yes.
Trying on something new and losing an edge. But the reason I'm like poking at it is because I relate to it. Like as a person, I already mentioned the shape of my ego as being very achievement oriented. Like, I think in our profession, so many of us are rewarded very handsomely for behavior and habits that don't serve us, that actually keep us away from so many of the things that we want and desire in our lives. And that's where things get so slippery, right? Like where you can look back at your life and see like, geez, when I worked 7 days a week and really, had a sort of a martyristic approach to leadership, like I sure got a lot done, like I was really rewarded for that. I was promoted. I was able to open another restaurant, whatever it is. And I think of that as like an edge, as someone who might report or say like, that's my competitive edge and I'm doing all these things to keep with it. And like literally I'm looking at this table right now, which of course has edges, the ways in which having an edge separates us from other people. And that doesn't have to be a problem, but I think what I'm circling around, what I circled around in my own life, what I see a lot of other leaders circling around is like, is that edge still getting me what I want most? Or is it not doing that anymore? And do I need to think about approaching my life and my relationships in a different way? Is it time to let go of the edge?
Sure.
And I don't know, I think the thing, I may have shared this story with you already, when I first hired a coach and did so because I wanted support in my business, and me being me, notebooks, type A, I had like my whole list of questions to ask about my business. Like I brought the agenda. And Patrick was like, great. I can help you with all of those things. I was like, cool, let's get to it. He's like, but first I need to know, what do you want from your life? When you die, what do you want to have achieved? What's most important to you? What do you want to be said about your character and how you supported and contributed to our world, to your community, to your people? What does that look like for you? Because to make decisions about your business in a vacuum without aligning them with what you most want from your life, there's no value in that. There's no there. And so my first homework assignment was to write my own eulogy
Oh,
And that was the exercise that for me, just to bring it full circle was sort of like, I don't know that this edge is really actually getting me what I want most. But it took doing the work of saying to myself and really telling the truth, what do I want?
Yeah.
What actually matters?
I think I have a problem with, or whatever, problem. You tell me what it is. Yeah, no, yeah, assess me, please. No. I think that I don't successfully navigate what success is for me. I'm not necessarily sure I have a comfortable relationship with it, because the way and maybe that connects me to the, like, seeing people's success because they're on TV or they have a book or whatever. My journey is a little bit different than that, but and maybe that's what I want. Maybe I'm still going to get there.
Sure.
Right. But I maybe look at that with a little bit of jealousy and say, damn it, I've been doing this as long as I have to. Plus, because of where I'm at in my career, I'm having to exert on myself harder.
Yep.
So I'm asking those questions and also pushing myself forward.
Yes.
Maybe that's another thing to consider right now, is like, what is your version of success? And maybe don't hang on to that too hard. Maybe that's something to, like, maybe change a level on here.
What a beautiful question. And you're framing it with so much of the important context, because I think that you're really clearly naming the ways in which every one of us, unless, you live off the grid, like, we are fed a very specific prescription for what success looks like in our culture. Mm-hmm. It's in the water, like, you couldn't avoid it if you tried, in terms of what it is to be good, to be successful, to have a happy life. It looks like very specific things. And in our culture, that's what's dictated to us. Being on TV is good. Yeah. Not being on TV means you're not as important. I'm being hyperbolic here, sure. But like, and that's not to say that being on TV or winning a certain award or having a Michelin star restaurant, that shouldn't or can't be a person's authentic desire for themselves, like their truest picture of success. I think that can and is absolutely true. Again, I think the work here is like discernment. Is that true for me? Or is this someone else's voice in my head, or a collection of other people's voice in my head that's really influencing me in a way that is actually taking me away from what I want the most? Yeah. And what you kind of started our conversation with around, like, some of the practices you're introducing into your life right now, or our moment of hugging till relaxed, like, these are all things that have you played Tetris before?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. These are all things that, to me, clear our Tetris screen, where, like, we don't necessarily have control over the blocks, the shape of the blocks that fall. We don't get to control how quickly they come down. All we can really do, I think, as individuals, is create some more space on the screen, so that we give ourselves more time between mm-hmm. when the block is falling and when we need to make a choice about where to put it. And that work, whether it's daily, weekly, we need to be engaged in some of it all the time. That is the work that I think helps us to see our own minds more clearly and understand, like, am I living out Thomas Keller's dream right now? Yeah. Or am I living out my own? Yeah. Which one is it? Yeah. And I don't think, sometimes when we reach a point of like, geez, I'm just in so much pain and I'm so confused, I need to do something to get out of this space. And there are so many things we can do to support ourselves in those acute moments. And again, I just think it's like, every day we got to do some stuff. Yep. We got to do some stuff to sweep out our brain and understand, what is my thought? What is someone else's thought? What does success look like for me today? Yep.
In the moment, right? Yeah. Because, like, the long-term forecast, looks so much differently now. And in the moment, like I say, I kind of recommit to things every day. Like, all right, I go, okay. I say it to myself all the time. Okay. And then, I'm trying to start.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Like, talking myself into it, whatever it is. But gosh. Nice. Thanks for, like, working with how how my tempo today, because it is a little off. Like I'm busy, right? You know, like and I was sensing that even before you got here. And how do you sort maybe when you're how do you sort when maybe your brain's going too fast? Other than the hug, what if you're alone? Is there something that helps you kind of just be like, okay, restart, shut it off, restart? Is there? Yeah. Do you have a technique there?
I have a couple of different things. And by the way, I don't find you to be. I love your train of thought. I'm right there with you.
It's a train, all right.
I know. I'm in the car. I'm not like hanging off the back or the side.
This is not James Corden's car.
I am in it with you. What are some things that I do? I have some rituals in the morning. I've got some rituals in the evening that help me keep my brain clean. And I truly feel like an alien walking around the world if I don't do them. I always give myself permission to make them shorter or adjust. But the idea of like waking up and like then just leaving my house and doing my day actually scares me. Like just the messiness that constantly lives in my brain. So some of the things I do, writing, journaling, I do that every single day. I try to do it in the morning. Sometimes I can't, but I always try to do it at some point between the beginning and end of my day. And that literally feels to me like looking at my closet and taking all the clothes out and just dumping them on the bed. There is no organization. It is just like a download of what is in my brain right now. It can jump from like, I don't know, an opinion I had about the dinner that we had last night to like some really deep and terrible thing I'm dealing with my mom, you know, like it's just get it out, put it on the page. Like, and then from there, I think it allows me to make some conscious decisions about, okay, which of these thoughts do I want to put back in the closet? Like which of these is going to serve me today to hold on to and carry with me? And which of them maybe not, can hang out on the bed and not come with me. And so that's one thing. Having a journaling practice, I think, has really saved my life in a lot of ways, certainly my sanity. I meditate regularly, which is something that I resisted for a really long time. I think because like so many people, I believed I wasn't good at it or I wasn't doing it right. And I still maybe have some thoughts about not doing it right and not being good at it. But my practice of meditation, which is usually, I don't know, I'm going to say 10 minutes a day. It does not look like sitting and looking at my mind's eye with nothing happening in my brain. I think it's more of a method of like evaluation where how big of a zoo is it today? Like that whole 10 minutes, I might jump from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing. And so my takeaway from meditation is like, okay, today my mind is really busy. That's helpful for me to know before I start the rest of my day.
So I really like this. So it's again, you know, for me, I'm kind of entering into this time, and maybe just because of the different, you know, things that I'm doing. But I think for me, now that I'm thinking about what you're saying, is that clutter is important for me to get rid of at home before I go, and like literal. Like I'm making the bed right now, and you know, like I didn't really do that. I think there's just, you know, I'm trying to put this new job I'm on is, I mean, kind of a day job. I've never been in this industry other than just saying, oh, I want to try this. But I think that eliminating some of that clutter and taking a little bit morning just to stretch or whatever. You know I don't write much, but you know, it's just really important to get your day off to a good start. Yes. And so think about that. I had Same on, and he lifts. He lifts, bro. Like every day. Look at him. If you see him, Same is huge right now.
Wow.
Huge. And he's on a trip on a boat, so maybe we'll get to see some topless Same.
Here's hoping.
Yeah, because he's hot.
Yeah, I mean, physical exercise, movement, it's huge. It's huge.
Just getting the blood flowing.
Yes. I'll have to take a look at his lifting methods. Yeah.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for taking the time to come here. Thanks for being there for me before I knew you were going to be there, you know, like arriving in a very timely moment for all of us. Thanks a lot. It means a lot. Thanks for helping us consider ourselves. And you know, in maybe a little different way. I mean, for Christ's sake, I had, you know, the Reiki folks in here talking, you know, about stuff. You know, you have to really be open. Effort on being open a little bit and just changing a perspective. Yeah. Did you like it when the leaves changed?
I love it. Right. It's magic to me every year. Yeah. You know, I didn't grow up with that.
Yeah, and then they fall.
And then they fall. It is, I think trees are so wise in their ability to let go and to trust that the leaves will come back when it's time.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. Seasons change, fam. So should you.
Yeah. Tim, thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure.
This was really an honor and such a privilege to be able to share dialogue with you. And I just can't overstate my own thought of how important these types of conversations are for each one of us, and hopefully to folks who are listening too, because I think that very first question that we looked at of like, how do we unpack the house as a community? I don't think this is the only answer, this conversation we're having today, but I think it's a really meaningful one.
Yeah.
And so I thank you for making yourself vulnerable and open to doing it and investing all the time and energy it takes to be in these types of conversations. And also for modeling brave and conscious leadership. It's really inspiring to see you being you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I kind of like me. You're very nice to say that. And I really like you.
Thank you.
Alison Arth, Salt and Row, Gleam Tower Media, Reed. Everybody here at Niver Niver Land, thanks you, Alison Arth. You're amazing.
Grateful to be in it with all of you. Thank you.
Cheers.